Karen, there's talk in the media about this game. I mean, they said it about the game against England, but this game being sort of a tour-defining one. I guess maybe being the last one, really showing the guys they've got enough sort of depth of character to really to give it one final push. It must be tough. It's been a long season. They're 80 minutes away from, flight home, Christmas, holiday, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the toughest game of the year must be the last game. You're at your most tired, so, they've got one eye on the plane, one eye on Christmas, a long break, all sorts of things like that. But, Wales will certainly be up for this game. They're heading into the Six Nations. Their season's nowhere near being finished. So they're looking to play for places for that Six Nations squad. They came very close last weekend. I think they're going to build on that. South Africa will certainly have to be a lot better than they were last weekend. Sure, they've got some new players, new faces who are a little bit fresher than the Italy match. But in terms of a tour defining, they'll be really upset about the Ireland performance, which I think is perhaps the worst performance in a couple of years in the green and gold. Italy wasn't great. England was a lot better. I think you beat England in your tours pretty much a success. I'm not sure about, I can't see us losing to Wales, so I'm sort of thinking, Ireland's going to be the one game that we did lose. If we did lose to Wales, then the tour's not really a success at all, even though we have beaten England. Certainly they have a lot to work on. And when you compare the Southern Hemisphere teams, they only got a rugby championship before the World Cup, and it's a shortened rugby championships where all these Northern Hemisphere teams, where the World Cup will be staged, have got a whole Six Nations, and then they'll organise some mid-year tests as well. So we're a little bit behind the eight ball, the Southern Hemisphere teams, and a lot of the favourites obviously from the Southern Hemisphere. So, South Africa will certainly want to put in a good performance, and I think Heineke will want to sort of establish a couple of sort of entrench a couple of players in positions for the World Cup. We heard old Steve Hansen, the All Blacks coach, saying he's got, I think, 25 of his 30-man squad already settled. I'm pretty sure Heineke doesn't have as many as 25 of his 30-man squad.
Well, he said he's only got one.
Oh, he's got
John
one.
de Villiers, the only he's going to the World Cup. Hansen's got 25.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, because we talked earlier about we don't know really who's our first choice scrum half, if everyone's fit, and fly off, and front row, and even in the lock department. We've had Jacques Free retire, and we've had Bakkies Botha retire. That's not the sort of momentum you want carrying into a World Cup year. So a lot to work on, let's just say, in South African rugby.
Just on that point, Tank, I guess the number 10 berth has been a very debatable one, and do you think that again Pat Lambie being selected at fly half is an indication that he is going to be the Boks World Cup fly half? Well, and why?
It certainly looks that way. I've been privy to a few SMSs between a few prominent people and the coach, and I know that he's undecided on the fly half. He's still not sure whether he should completely get rid of Morné Steyn, which worries me completely. The debate then between Pollard and Lambie for me is at a tier 3 compared to what we do with Morné Steyn. So at least we're comparing two brilliant young players. I'm in the Pollard camp. I like the fact the Springboks are playing a more ball-in-hand game. But, Lambie has just been astonishingly good on this tour. And, history suggests that he's only played in the Northern Hemisphere and he's got a slightly better kicking game. He's quite authoritative now in terms of defining a game. And so he probably deserves that spot. For me, the evolution would have seen Reinach and Pollard start this week. I thought Hoogaard didn't have a great game against Ireland. And that's had a knock-on effect against Pollard. And so Pollard hasn't been given a second chance after that one bad game. So I'd have liked to have seen Reinach and Pollard get a start. And hopefully this weekend we get an opportunity to see that in action. It obviously depends how the game goes. But I also see them as two very different fly-offs. So Lambie is now more of a bit more of a kicking game, whereas Pollard is more a ball-in-hand game. And maybe you can start a horses for courses kind of environment, which is not a bad thing, where, if you want to play ball-in-hand, you play Pollard. If you want to play a more kicking game, you bring on Lambie. And I think that's not a bad space to be.
Prediction, Tank?
I'd say Boks by 6.
Karen?
I'm going to go slightly fewer. I think Boks by 3.